Hi guys, this is Dr. Aeronautics. I fly things and you watch me. So, I can safely say now that in approximately 10 to 30 seconds, the color scheme of Windows is going to change because it does that every time and it wastes the time. So I'm going to start by saying that. But anyway, we are going to be flying the B1 A that we constructed in Norsden land. I did this off screen because it was a huge project. So I basically built it using the schematics that I showed the last episode after flying south with the F-104. So now what we're going to do is accomplish its true purpose, which is to carry the F-104 on long distance flights. So we're going to go into the game and we're going to load the F-104 into the B1 and take off with the B1 and fly all the way up to New Venice. Or do I want to go to Buzzicunger Beach? Yeah, I want to go to Buzzicunger Beach instead. So that's a distance of 1,400 miles, which the B1 can manage just fine. The B1 has both internal and external, internal and bay tanks. So when we use the internal tanks, we can go about 1,800 miles on the internals, which is further than the furthest range of the F-104. And keep in mind, this is while carrying the F-104. And if we want to, we can extend the range to approximately 6,300 miles, which is the total maximum possible distance from here to here. I think it was 6,300. It doesn't seem to... Oh, yes, there it is. So that is the maximum possible distance on Norsden land, and the B1A is able to fly this distance with filling all of the bay tanks. So it's basically going to take us in the F-104 wherever we need to go. And gosh darn it, that stupid Windows thing hasn't come up yet. Weird. So I take it you guys are going to enjoy this. This is a list of all of the various configurations for the aircraft that we have. And we have even more ambitious plans in Norsden land. We're going to build an aircraft that is capable of carrying 228 people. It's going to have bedrooms in it. And it's going to be able to fly even further than the B-1, while not carrying, of course, the F-104 Starfighter, at 9,200 miles maximum range, which means in about 1 1/3 flight, we've now gone 12,500 miles, which is exactly halfway around the Earth. So there is nowhere on the Earth that is further away than 12,000 miles. And, of course, the antipode of Norsden land, I believe... let's see what the antipode of New Venice is. 21 north, and that's going to be... looks like about 85 west. Or, sorry, 85 east. Probably in the middle of the Indian Ocean. 21 south, 85 east. There you go. So basically the central East Indian Ocean. So since this is the maximum distance that we can go, we can draw this range ring out and say, well, technically, the furthest that we would ever have to fly would be to this point here, which is... I believe this is Java Island, Indonesia. Not 100% sure about that. No, it's Sumatra. This is Java. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to check on that. Of course, unless we wanted to fly to these crazy islands. I saw one, I think one tried to pop up here earlier, but it doesn't look like there's anything here. I think this is... oh, that's why I've disabled them. Okay, yeah, so there aren't any islands around there. So there you go. Basically, one huge flight, a takeoff, and a landing. But anyway, I have all three aircraft here, and the A340, we're going to build an Airbus A340. That's going to be the plane, and I'm going to modify it to make the seats business class size so people aren't cramped. So basically, I have all three, the F-104, the B1, and the planned A340, all listed here in their various specs. We have normal and maximum specs. So then here's the flight timing table, and these are the various distances that we can do. So we can do 1060 miles on the F-104 with no bay tanks. With all the laden bay tanks, we can do 1730 miles. On the normal B1 with just internal tanks, we can do 1950 miles, and using all bay tanks and the F-104, total range is about 7,000 miles. Now the A340 has no external tanks, it's only internal. So if we fill up all of the internal things and only have a few pounds per passenger of luggage, then we can accomplish 9,200 on just internal tanks, and there's no external attachments. And then of course we have what's considered the antipode, which is the opposite side of the Earth, basically 12,500 miles, and it will take 24 hours to get there. So we can now reach Norsden land, anywhere in Norsden land, in 12 hours, and anywhere on Earth in 24. Exciting news. So here we have a table of common flights from a certain location to another location, and then we have a distance and then a flight time in hours. So you can see right here, if we want to go from New Venice to Dubai, that's probably the longest flight that we would really be doing. So yeah, that takes a while. Although I believe New Delhi, I think, is the longest flight that we can manage without going over our range. And that goes to the full 9,200 miles. And then, of course, there's other things here like Tokyo, 6,700 miles. London, that's probably a flight that we're going to be doing multiple times. 5,700 miles. We can get there in 10 and a half hours. And, yeah, we have Sydney, Singapore. Rio de Janeiro is really close. We can actually get there in only 7 hours. And I will explain this later. And then what I've done was I did a lot of math so that we can calculate flight times. So you basically put in the gray and you get the green. So that basically tells you what to do. You can ignore this stuff. This is just for calculation purposes. So what I can do now is enter a time that I want to get there. So first of all, we need to figure out where we want to fly as an example. This is just an example of how to use the calculator that I made. So we're also going to need one more thing. Okay. So let's say, for instance, we want to fly from New Venice to... Oh, where's a good place? Okay, let's say, for example, that we're going to fly from New Venice to Cairo. So that's 7,800 miles plus or minus. So now we enter the mileage, 7,800. And let's say that we're going there for a 9 a.m. meeting. So, or a noon meeting. So let's just say we want to get there at 9 a.m. So we can put that in. And now we need a departure time zone offset. Now, New Venice is in UTC -7, or as we call it, Eastern Time. So that's taken care of. And then we need to figure out what the arrival time of Cairo is. And if you'll excuse... That was actually kind of funny because I was going to say excuse me while I do a little bit of math and it decided to end on me. So I figured out that Cairo should be, I'm not sure if it is or isn't, 3 hours ahead based on how far it is off by longitude from Greenwich Mean. And now we have all of our information. So this is the arrival zone clock at departure. So for someone living in Egypt, we would be leaving New Venice at 6:30 p.m. But that's not actually the case. The travel time is going to be 14 and a half hours, and we will need to stop once for fuel, I think. 14 hours. No, we won't need to stop once for fuel. Never mind. And, okay, well, it really depends on whether or not we're taking the B1 or the A340 and that sort of thing, but I really shouldn't consider the A340 because it's not built yet. And then here is our local departure time. This is what time on the clock of where we're leaving when we leave. So basically when it's 8:30 a.m. in New Venice, we fly for 14 and a half hours and arrive at Cairo at 9 a.m. That's just an example. Okay, so that calculator basically works for anything. Okay, so here's where we left off at the F-104 Starfighter. And at the bottom of your screen, you will see a very large imprint of a large jet. This is the B1 A that we built. It's fully ready to operate, and yes, it has this bay underneath for the fuel tanks and for the F-104 Starfighter. If we go ahead and count, you can see that there are 11 to 95. So there's 16 meters of storage room, and we do have to take the wings off of the F-104 Starfighter and the horizontal stabilizer. But if you look, if you take the wings off, it's only 3 meters wide. And the total length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So when you take off the... oh, that's just lovely. When you take off the horizontal stabilizer... Great, now we're going to have to fly in rain. When you take off the horizontal stabilizer, it just fits inside the... bay here. So this is how we do it, and you can see there once we stow the landing gear that it's only 2 meters. So the F-104 fits perfectly in here, covering this up except for this area, and then we just lay the bay tanks right in here and then cover it over, and we're all set to travel at full speed. So I'm ready for the flight, and I guess you guys are as well. So let's get moving. So all we have to do is hop in, and this is where we can store the stabilizer and the wings is in these cubby holes in here. And here's our cockpit. So without any further ado, let's start this thing up and fly. Okay, so here we are. Still upset about this rainstorm, but whatever. So unlike the F-104, the secret to not much distance versus super far is the number of engines we have. We have 4 engines, which is crazy up until now. But we're going to go ahead and start up now. So the first thing you're going to notice is this is a lot simpler to start than the F-104. The amount of software aboard this plane is crazy. So there's only a few buttons as compared with the F-104. So that's always great to see. So the first thing we need to do is turn on the battery. And that should give us perfect 24 bus volts. There we go. And then we can go ahead and activate the avionics. So turn those on And we should turn on at least one exterior light here. We don't need the panel. We'll go ahead and turn navigation and beacon on to let them know that we're going to start the engines. And just like that, we're pretty much ready to start the engines. So we're going to go ahead and activate the generators when they come on. So that will auto start them. And this is the fire or fuel off light, which is activated because our fuel is obviously off. And we just press a single button, and that will go through an auto start feature for every engine on the vehicle. So it's going to start engine 1 first, and then engine 2, then engine 3, and then engine 4, in that order. So I'm going to run through the auto start sequence initiator in 3, 2, 1, activate. There goes engine 1. And we have generator power, which is good. Unlike the F-104, we do not need an EPU to start the engines. The battery is powerful enough on board to take care of this for us. And there goes engine 1. Engine 1 is up. Here comes engine 2. There goes engine 2. Engine 2 is up. And here comes engine 3. Engine 3 is up. Engine 4. Engine 4 is up. All engines are now running. Perfect. At this time, we're now going to go ahead and turn on the display here. We can display things in a graph or by number. So because I'm going to be taking off soon, we're going to start a number, and that's a problem, so let me go ahead and take care of that. Okay, we now have full internal fuel here. The next thing we're going to do is set the altimeter to 3010, which is what the pressure is right here in the Space Center. Going to set an altitude hold. Cruise in this vehicle is established at 30,000 feet, so that is already set at 0.78 Mach. So there's 0.78 Mach. Our course is going to be 40 degrees. As I've asked my technicians to check the aircraft out prior to departure, that's been done, so we're ready to begin taxiing. Once we switch this to GPS, we should be good now. And we also have a positioning unit, which we can use in here. Unlike the F-104, this actually has a map, and it keeps track of our motion across the Earth. So we have this here. Meanwhile, I'm going to set it to the low value here. And looks like we can go right for takeoff. I'm going to set trim for takeoff now at 6 degrees nose up. Trim is set. Set flaps to 1. That's done. And now we're ready to taxi this beast. So over here you will notice a power level, and this is the thrust setting approximately, and engine RPM, engine temperature. And here we are. This aircraft has an afterburner. Unlike the F-104 Starfighter, this afterburner is activated when the aircraft power level reaches 75%. The afterburner is extremely inefficient, so we only use it for takeoffs, landings, and emergency speed runs. Let's go ahead and turn some more lights on. We need landing. We should have had taxi on, but that's okay. Strobe should be on. And after restarting the video, we'll be ready for takeoff. Taking off in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full afterburner set. Rotate. And we are airborne. Gear up. Afterburner retract 70%. Flaps from 1 to 0. And just like that, we're airborne. So now we're going to turn left to heading 040. And what you'll notice is that this aircraft handles a lot differently than the F-104 Starfighter. The F-104 is much more maneuverable and quick to its movements, whereas this aircraft is a lot bulkier and more difficult to maneuver. So I seem to have taken off in the opposite direction that I thought I had taken off in. So now we're going left. This gauge over here is very handy for knowing what the attitude of the craft is, whether you're climbing or descending. so I refer to it often during the approach and departure phases. And now we're going to execute the longer part of the climb. I'm going to begin putting us on autopilot. Autopilot activated and altitude hold on. We're now at 10,000 feet. Now, unlike the F-104 Starfighter, this autopilot is actually intelligent enough to manage speed and altitude even when you're not there. So you can set a speed hold and have the craft accelerate to that, and an altitude hold and have it go up at a specific vertical speed to that altitude. We're a little bit higher now, so at 15,000 feet we're plenty high enough we can turn our landing lights off. As now that we're climbing just fine, we can now go to the graphs. Here's transition altitude. Resetting altimeter to 29902. Going to switch now from wing leveler to heading hold. $25,000 feet. $27,000 feet. The autopilot is now leveling us off. We've reached our cruising altitude of 30,000 feet. So now I'm going to activate the speed hold, and it should bring us up to the speed that we desire, 0.78 Mach. Okay, so we are now on full autopilot. Speed is being held right where it should be. Altitude is held, and our thrust is at a good 64%, and N1 is out of the yellow at 81%, which is good. So we're in long-distance cruise now. And the next thing that we can do, after checking the time, it's a little bit later than I thought in the day, is mess around with the GPS. This GPS is great because it uses the motion of the vehicle to determine where it is, which is very handy. Of course, this is different than most GPSs that you would use in your car or in a real airplane where you're relying off of satellites. But Norsden Land hasn't launched any satellites, so such a system is impossible. We're going to go ahead and select a course now. If I can remember what it is. I was successful. I think. Yes, I was successful. And we go, and there it is. So now we have a bearing here, which is 27 degrees. So we can set a course now for 27 degrees. And so now we have it turned to GPS. Should be able to go to course. There we go. Whoops, 27 is what we want. Right. So we are 1066 nautical miles away, and we even have an ETA. It should take about 2 hours to get there, which is nice. Now what the autopilot is going to try and do is go cross-track for some degree until this, where is it? This marker, which represents our position, intersects with the path, and then we follow the path straight up. So it's a very intelligent autopilot. So I'm going to pause the video now and come back if something interesting happens with the plane or fuel or going from the Adium Ocean over Norsden land again. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so we're about midway through the journey now, and we're hitting a little bit of turbulence. But we are approaching the coast, the mid-equatorial, actually this would be the northern equatorial forest, almost as far north as the central swamp, just come off of South of Cape Peninsula, and we'll be going back over the land shortly to go up to Buzzacunder Beach. So yeah, here's the forest, and then it meets the swamps up here. So I will see you guys in about 50 minutes when we get ready for the descent, unless something more interesting happens first. So see you then. Okay, so we're about to enter Buzzacunder Beach metropolitan area. So what I'm going to do at this time is to reduce the heading to what I want, and we're going to turn to 15 degrees in preparation for the descent, approach, and landing. So we're going to hold this direction until we either reach the point for the runway, or we reach the 90 mile limit at which we begin the descent. So whichever comes first. See you guys then. Okay, so we're going to reach the 90 mile limit first, and it's happening as I speak. So we're going to maintain the heading on the autopilot. I'm going to disable airspeed hold now, and I'm also going to disable altitude hold as well. I'm now going to reduce the throttle to about 35% and begin the descent. Because we have plenty of fuel still on board, there should be plenty of fuel with which to maneuver with once we reach the bottom. So I'm beginning the descent now. now time to begin the turn to runway heading of 060. Here comes the transition altitude, setting altimeter to local. Going to prepare for the approach phase of the flight by setting the altimeter hold to 4,000 feet. Coming below 10,000 feet now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the landing lights and the taxi lights. coming down now to the approach hold altitude. We're now very low in altitude, so we can go ahead and turn the de-ice and pilot heat off. Okay, runway has been spotted, and I'm going to turn the craft to align. And here is hold height. Well, today has to be a really bad day if it's also raining at my destination. Time now to turn to the runway heading. And now I'm going to disable the autopilot and begin descending. So now we're on the glide slope now, and we're preparing for the final approach and landing. I'm also going to begin adding flaps as we start to decelerate to help with lift. Seems our approach is rather high, so I'm going to begin activating the spoilers a little bit to assist with the descent. Flap setting 2. Flap setting 3. 238 knots, gear down.
Sink rate. Pull up. Pull up.
That's kind of rather irritating
Pull up.
because I'm trying to land.
Pull up. Sink rate.
We're going to have to figure out how to
Sink
disable
rate.
that, because that's really annoying.
Sink rate. Sink rate. Sink rate. Sink rate.
Be quiet! I am trying to
Sink
land
rate.
the craft. Okay, there's touchdown. And the landing roll is complete. Flaps up. So I didn't have time to say it, but I just realized it in time. I forgot that this is not the autopilot on-off switch. I thought it was, but I forgot. So I'd left the heading autopilot still on. So because of that, I wasn't able to turn properly, and the approach, which was looking really good, got off a little bit, and I had to correct it at the last minute. But other than that, I think the approach looked really great. So now that we are taxiing, we can begin to reset some things like the autopilot. We can begin setting the horse knobs back to 0. Okay, so that is done. Now that we're off the runway, we should be able to just turn the landing lights off. So the taxiing is going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video now and come back upon arrival at the fuel box, which is where we like to park the F-104. So then we'll offload it there. Okay, so we're coming up to the fuel box now. We'll go ahead and refuel, and after refueling is complete, we'll turn right and park over here. Offload the F-104 and wheel it around to here, where we like to park it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and refuel now. Okay, we've been refueled now, so we can go ahead and back out. And now we can go ahead and pull around. And here we are. This is where we're going to rest the craft and do that. So, with the F-104, offload it. And so now we can turn this off. We can turn all of our lights off except the engine display light, taxi off, and strobe off. We're now going to deactivate all 4 generators. And we are ready to shut down. So we're going to go ahead and cut all fuel lines now. Okay, so we'll just wait for the RPM to reach 0. And now we can go ahead and turn off the avionics and kill the battery. And there we go. We've now arrived with the F-104 at Buzzacunger Beach. And I will offload it later on after this episode. Next episode will probably be, well, off screen I'll probably build the A340. We might do a flight with that. But the next episode will be when we construct a whole bunch of side projects. We're going to go back to the Space Center, do some stuff. We might set up some automation things. I might show you some more stuff that I do. So that's basically what's going on next episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed this flight, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.